want to thank everybody for coming. It means a lot to us. The Shloshim actually was last week on Thanksgiving Day, but we were in Muncie for the Shloshim, but we felt like we wanted to have something here that we could share with the community here. I know a lot of people here had an opportunity to meet my father-in-law. And if they didn't, and we've growing up here and we've been here a number of years, we got the sense that this was a shared type of experience, and we like to share our simchas. Sometimes we share the opposite, but we felt like this was something that we wanted to share with the entire community and share who he was. We know that some of you again had an opportunity to meet him. Some of you know him maybe a little bit better. Some of you never met him. But I wanted to kind of paint a picture. Even those of you who met him probably didn't have a full understanding of who he was. And I wanted to paint a picture of who my father-in-law was. And Javi and I both sat down and kind of crafted a picture. So this, what I'm going to present to you is kind of a joint effort from both of us. So I want to start off just giving kind of a short history of his life, and then talk about what we feel made him very unique and what made him special. He grew up in Montreal. He was born in Montreal. Grew up in Montreal. Kind of a traditional upbringing for the 50s and 60s. Parents were Holocaust survivors, so he went to day school, went to high school. And it was as I said, a kind of a traditional upbringing, nothing too special. Sometime in high school, he started to get more involved, Jewish-wise, and he was involved in various programs. And he started at McGill University in Montreal, majoring in biochemistry, which is one of the first facts I think that surprises people. People know that he was a psychologist, but he majored in biochemistry. Sometime in college, he had, and I've heard of a number of different reasons why, but he felt the need to learn more, to seek more. And one of the things that I heard over Shiva was that he somehow got into a discussion with somebody who was, we'll call a heretic. He was somebody a little bit off the derech. And he was fascinated by the discussion. But he also realized that he didn't have the answers to what this fellow was talking about. And he realized that he needed to find more. He needed to find the answers to these things. And so he, in the middle of McGill University's third year, 1 year away from graduating, he went to Torah Vodas Yeshiva in New York. And coming from a background as he did, he didn't have the strongest background. He was placed in the Lotus Shir, which already is a very difficult position to put yourself in. You're somebody who's majoring in biochemistry, being put in the Lotus Shir. And secondly, at the time, all the Shiurim in Torah Vodas were done in Yiddish, and he didn't speak a word of Yiddish. So, most of us would think that the cards are stacked against us and just give up and go home. Instead, he plugged at it. He had a cousin who sat with him every single night, going over the shir, and that way he learned Yiddish very, very slowly. So he's not only learning a new language, he's learning very new topics, Torah, Gemara in depth, and slowly learned Yiddish, slowly made the rounds. And at the same time, this caused a little bit of difficulty at home. His parents were maybe not the happiest that he had left university before graduating. So he asked him of his Rebbeim, and his Rebbeim told him to finish university for Kibbutz Avim. So he went back to Montreal, finished his degree in biochemistry at McGill, and then he went to learn in the Yeshiva Gedola in Montreal. He stayed there for a few years. He spent a couple after he got married to my mother-in-law. He stayed there for a couple years in Kollel, got smicha, and then he embarked on what he believed at the time was his life's mission. He went into the world of chinuch. They moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where he taught in a girls' high school. And he absolutely loved it. He felt that this was his life's calling. After about 3 years, he had to leave the world of chinuch. It was a very painful experience for him. Not important what the details were, but he became very disillusioned by some of the things that he saw taking place. And he had to leave that world. And like I said, he felt very disillusioned. I remember having a couple of conversations with him, and something I'll talk about a little bit more, but you really got a sense that, just the emes that he felt, seeing something that wasn't right, just pained him to such an extent. And he felt he had to take a step back and kind of regroup. So he took the ultimate step back, which was he joined the armed forces. He became a chaplain in the Army and the Navy for 3 years. Not only that, but it was in the middle of nowhere. Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And my wife, Javi, remembers some experiences there. She was in kindergarten in the 3rd year there. And after 3 years in the Army, he realized, he realized he had to take a step back, but he also had to provide a proper environment for his family. And so they moved to New Haven, Connecticut, which was very close to my mother-in-law's family in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And he moved there to be close to family and to embark on his next stage of his career. And while he was in Fort Leonard Wood, he got a master's degree in social work, which he saw as possibly being his next stage in life. While in New Haven, Connecticut, he started working on his PhD in psychology. While he was doing that, it took him a number of years. He worked in a crisis center in Stamford, Connecticut, for the state of Connecticut, which was a all-night job. So you got all the people calling in the middle of the night. He worked as a school counselor in Stamford. He had various jobs while he was in various types of social work and counseling jobs while he was getting his PhD. He finally completed his PhD, and sometime around that, I can't remember if it was before or after he got his PhD, but he started working in Kiryas Yol, which was his ultimate position. Now, Kiryas Yol, for those who are not familiar, is a Satmar town. It's a city. This is a city which is completely Satmar Hasidim, and they have their own school district that they run, which is basically it's part of the public school system. It's a little bit complex. I never completely understood. It's part of the public school system, but it's completely run by the Satmar Hasidim. And they have a school which is devoted to children with either learning disabilities or various challenges. And he was one of the school psychologists for the school system in Kiryas Yol. And so the Yiddish that he had learned way back in Tarvadas became part of his, was a prerequisite for this position. In Kiryas Yol, they only speak Yiddish. Very few of them speak English. And at the same time, he also, once they moved to Muncie, at some point it became too difficult to make the commute all the way from New Haven, Connecticut to Kiryas Yol, which is about 45 minutes out of Muncie. So they moved to Muncie, and also for the chinuch of the children.